Hello, everyone. Welcome to Career Circle's workshop, Acing Your Job Interview with Confidence. I'm excited to have you here as we explore strategies for crushing your interview every time. Whether you're switching industries or advancing in your current field, today's session will equip you with practical insights and interactive activities to help you to take the next step confidently. We're currently recording this webinar to ensure accessibility for all participants. You can also enable closed captioning via your browser. We recommend using Google Chrome, where you can click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, click on Settings, and then Accessibility. You may refer to the screenshot in the presentation, reference a breakdown of instructions on how to access closed captioning on different browsers in the content section to your right, or reach out to one of our esteemed and wonderful colleagues at Career Circle in the tech support booth in the lobby to assist you. All the resources that we discussed today and more can be located on the content tab near the people and discussion feed to your right. All resources and the recording will be emailed to you after the event. I repeat, all resources and the recording will be emailed to you after the event. Please make sure to watch until the end as our amazing panelist has a wealth of knowledge to share. Before we get started with introductions, here's a QR code for our survey. You can open it on your phone and share your feedback with us. We'll be doing a raffle with the respondent, and one of you, one lucky winner, will win a Career Circle tote bag. The winner will be contacted next Tuesday, September the 9th. What an amazing day. If you miss it, no worries. We'll send the survey in our post-event email too. But if you want to give us your thoughts during the event, we'd love to hear from you. Now, with that being said, I know you're wondering, who am I? Well, I am Brittany Knowles, and I am the Learning and Development Specialist here. I currently work as I said, the career and professional development person, learning and development person for Career Circle. I have brown, tan, and red natural highlights in my hair. I am wearing a black shirt with wide brimmed glasses, and I'm currently sitting in an office. Now, Daniel, our wonderful, amazing, awesome, fantastic panelist, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Pugh. My pronouns are he, him, and I currently work at Career Circle as a technical recruiter. I have brown hair, brown eyes. I'm currently wearing pretty square-ish glasses. I have a light blue shirt with a black undershirt. And I'm currently sitting in my home office right now in Richmond, Virginia, and very excited here today to talk to everyone about interview preparation. And I will hand it shortly back to you, Brittany.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We're so excited to start this conversation. Let's begin by outlining strategies to put in place before your interview to increase your chances of success. Alrighty, off to you, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brittany. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to be talking about here today is going to be how to set yourself up for success before your interview. So, we have a couple strong bullets here, about 7 in total. We're going to be discussing. First one is going to be in regards to researching the company. So, this is something that is very underrated and a lot of individuals might forget about. Understanding its mission of the company, its values and cultures is very important. So it's very important to check out recent news or press releases. If that company just launched a new product or innovative program, mentioning that type of information shows that you've done your homework with the company. It's very important. Don't forget to explore their culture as well. There's a lot of different other websites and resources that you can go on, whether it's Glassdoor reviews, LinkedIn posts, and even their careers page can give you some level of insight into how that company operates. So definitely something that is underrated, highly recommended you before the interview. After that, once we get a good understanding of the company, we want to understand the role that you're applying to. So read the job description very carefully, highlight the key responsibilities and the required skills for that role. Try to understand and connect your experience to what that role is looking for. If they want someone, as an example, within project management skills, think of a time that you specifically led a project, so to speak. Also, understand how this role fits into a larger picture of the company. What problems are they exactly trying to solve, and how you can be applied to that problem overall? It's very important. Um, Once we have that research of company, once we have that understanding, it's very important to practice common questions. Um, helping prepare yourself for those frequently asked interview questions is important. Now, you don't have to memorize all the answers for this, but having a structure significantly will help you in preparation. So expect basic questions like, tell me about yourself. What do you want to, why do you want to work here? Or describe a challenge you overcame. Recording yourself or practicing with someone is very important. And we'll go through some resources later on here today during the webinar about how to maximize that. But it helps you refine your delivery and you catch filler words. And that's something that you might not traditionally see until you actually go through those questionnaires overall. After that, we really want to prepare your questions, have thoughtful questions ready for the interviewer. So, asking thoughtful questions shows one that you're serious. You can try some basic questions like, what does success look like in this role? How does the team collaborate? Avoid questions that can really be answered with a quick Google search. Make them a little bit more personal and relevant. And also, asking about the company's future plans or team dynamics can spark a meaningful conversation that can set you up in a meaningful way during that interview. So, definitely important. From there, we're going to dive into then reviewing your resume. So be ready to discuss your experience and achievements. This is very important and a huge meat and potatoes fact of it. You really want to know your resume inside and out. Be ready to explain things like gaps in the resume, different transitions you had overall, and achievements that are meaningful. Use your resume as a storytelling tool. Don't just list tasks, talk about impact. That's a huge thing in culture that a lot of companies are looking for is the impact that you can bring to that particular role. So if you've updated your resume recently, make sure you're familiar with every bullet point that's on that resume. Um, let's see, from there, mock interviews. And this is something that can be very scary at first, but mock interviews are huge game changers. I highly recommend them. They help you get comfortable with the format and receive feedback of an interview. You can use a lot of different resources. Again, we're going to review some of these different resources here today, but you can use a career coach, a mentor, or even a friend. The goal ultimately is to simulate the pressure and polish your responses overall. And you'll catch small little habits like maybe like rambling about something or underselling yourself about a role. And that's something that you just won't know about until you either do the mock interview or you do an interview live. Um, the last bullet point here is going to be know the interview format. Understanding if it's a panel, is it a virtual interview? Is it a one-on-one? That's very important because if it's a virtual one, you're going to test your equipment overall. Camera, your lighting, your mic can be very important. I mean, it's a very common thing that mics can mess up, applications can fail, and having that support on demand, you want to be able to have that. Having a clean background. Is it a panel interview? If it is a panel interview, prepare to engage with multiple people, make contact, address everyone in the room. Is it a one on one? If it is, then you can build that rapport and keep it a little bit more conversational during the interview overall. So, these are some really good bullet points that I would definitely recommend diving into. So, with that being said, this is all before the interview. Now that we have a firm grasp on that, I want to transition into how to prepare for during the interview. So this is where everyone gets really nervous. And again, there's a few bullet points, a few good bullet points here. The first one, biggest, is going to be arrive early. Now, everyone always hears that arrive to be there about 10 to 15 minutes early for multiple reasons. One, it shows respect for the interviewer's time. And the biggest thing, too, is that it gives you a moment to settle in. This is used mainly for you as well. So it helps you avoid feeling rushed, making sure you're aware of the building. If it's an in person interview, making sure you're prepared to go through any technical issues. If it's a virtual interview, again, that's very common. Those tech issues can pop up, even if your computer is perfect and you have a great internet. All of a sudden, the internet goes down, and that could be a problem. So, definitely want to make sure you can equip yourself with those 10 to 15 minutes early. Again, not only for the interviewer's time and respect, but also for yourself to arm yourself for success in that moment. Definitely important there. And that's why it's number one. From there, we're going to talk about dressing appropriately. So, dressing, it's important to dress for the role you want. Even in a virtual interview, your appearance can really set the tone for what that interview is going to be like. When in doubt, in my personal opinion, when in doubt, go for business professional. It's better to be slightly overdressed than underdressed. And again, you want to be able to set that tone for that interview, whether it's in person, virtual, you name it. You want to have your best foot forward. When in doubt, go business professional. Um, on top of that, Listening very carefully. Don't rush to answer questions. Like, pay attention to the questions and take a moment to think before answering during that interview. Take a breath, process the question, respond thoughtfully. Active listening helps you tailor your response and shows that you're actively engaged in the interview itself, which is, again, very impactful. And the other one that this almost never gets brought up, show some good enthusiasm. Energy matters significantly during an interview. Demonstrating your skills and your interest in the role and company is important, but letting your passion for the role and company come through with your energy is so impactful. A good smile, good posture, genuine interest can make a big difference in how you're perceived during that interview, and as if you're a fit or not for that particular role. So definitely underestimated there. Then we're going to go into asking questions. Show your interest by asking insightful questions. So asking questions, one, isn't just polite, but two, it's strategic. It shows you're thinking critically about the opportunity. You can even do basic questions. Like, you could even try a question like, "What does success look like in this role?" Or, "How does the team collaborate on projects?" Those are questions that they're going to be expecting. So you definitely want to be able to ask these questions, because if you don't, it's definitely going to be a red flag. Why didn't you ask them? So definitely be prepared to even tailor the questions to specific um, ideas or culture dynamics you found within doing your research. And that's a great segue. So it's also important when during the interview to be very honest during the interview. Authenticity builds trust. That's a huge part of that. If you don't know something, it's okay to say so and express your willingness to learn. That a lot of the times is more impactful than than having that skill set or hard requirement for the role. The ability to adapt, be versatile, and learn is what a lot of employers are looking for. So interviewers appreciate that transparency. It's a sign of integrity, and that's massive. They absolutely want to see that. Let's see. So from there, we can also use things like the STAR method. That's something, in case you haven't heard of that, we're going to be going through that as well during the webinar here today, and how to maximize the STAR method, provide some examples. But being concise is also huge. Keep your answers focused and relevant overall. So, especially to an elevator pitch, you usually want to have it around like about 45 seconds to a minute long. Think of it as like a highlight reel, not like a full documentary of who you are, but essentially just a small, nice 45 to 1 minute, just brief introduction of who you are on that. And I'm sure you might be having some questions in regards to, hey, Daniel, maybe what is an elevator pitch? It's a somewhat common term, but it might be new to individuals here today. So, with that being said, I want to go into this slide about what goes into an elevator pitch and how to set you up for success there. So, first and foremost, what is an elevator pitch, right? So, an elevator pitch is a brief, compelling introduction that summarizes who you are, what you do, and what you're aiming for, all in about 45 seconds to about a minute. And it's broken into three sections: your intro, purpose, the second one being your past and present, and the third being your future. So for intro and purpose, there's three main points that we want to talk about here. It's going to be who are you? Start strong by introducing yourself, not just your name, but a quick snapshot of who you are professionally. From there, you're going to go into your purpose. This is important. Clarify your purpose. Are you networking? Are you interviewing? Are you pitching yourself for a specific opportunity? That's important as to why you're giving the elevator pitch. Then is, who is this for? Tailoring your pitch to your audience is something you need to think about. If you're speaking to a recruiter, then it's going to be a different pitch. Highlight what makes you a candidate. If it's a hiring manager, focus on how you can solve their problems. So that kind of goes back into the intro, into how to research the company and prepare yourself beforehand. Now we're going to go into the past and present. So this is where you talk about a lot of different work experience, your volunteer work. This is where you connect the dots in that elevator pitch. Share relevant work experience that highlights with the role or the opportunity. Volunteer work is also massive. It can be very powerful, especially if it shows leadership, initiative, or creativity, and should not be forgotten about. From there, you want to highlight your strengths and skills, but keep it focused. Think about what makes me stand out in that particular pitch. You can also talk about your strengths, your relevant interests. Mention accomplishments that show impact. If you have metrics, you definitely want to annotate that there as well. If it's awards or milestones, that is hugely relevant and is the same thing as a metric. So you want to be able to put that on there. And don't forget education and certificates overall, especially if they're directly related to the role. And obviously, massive accomplishments to note. Let's see. So that's going to encompass our past and present. From there, we want to go into future state in regards to the elevator pitch. And this is going to be broken into three different bullet points. One is going to be career goals. So wrapping up by looking ahead, right? So what are your career goals? Where do you see yourself growing in that particular environment? Express interest in the role, company, or program. So expressing genuine, like actual genuine interest in the role, company, or program shows to the employer or the individual you're talking to that you've done your homework, which is impressive. And then we're going to go into anything you are interested in learning more about. If there's something you're curious to learn more about, you need to say it. It shows you're proactive, you're growth minded, and a lot of the times they're looking for individuals that are versatile, that they are able to adapt and grow, even if they might not have particular skill sets within a particular opportunity. So definitely important to have there overall. But yeah, so that's what we have in regards to elevator pitch, intro, purpose, past and present, and then future. Now, with that being said, there are some common elevator mistakes I want to kind of talk about here. One of them is going to be too long or too short. So, timing is everything when it comes to an elevator pitch. A pitch that's too long loses attention, and one that's too short might miss different key points. And ideally, you want to keep that sweet spot around 45 seconds, maybe to a minute. Anything past that, like I said, you start to lose the attention. You might miss different keywords. And it's important to note, too, that it's called an elevator pitch. And most people don't spend that long on an elevator, maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half. So if it's 3 to like 5 minutes long, it's probably too long. And if it's only 10 seconds, it's probably too short. So definitely very important there in terms of length of the conversation. Second is overly personal, unrelated to the profession. So it is a good thing here to be authentic, but we need to keep it professional. I would definitely recommend avoid diving into personal stories that don't relate to your career goals. So think about things like, does this help me connect with the opportunity or the role? If it doesn't, you should probably save it for later because it's not. It's a bit too personal. It's not professional. It's not keeping it to the opportunity or your career goals. So definitely anything unrelated to the profession might want to hold on it for another time. Not knowing your audience. So tailor your pitch. That's a big thing here. What you say to a recruiter might be different than what you say to a hiring manager or a networking contact. And you can do a little homework with this. Understand who you are talking to and what they care about is important in this aspect. Um, and that's going to go into memorizing the speech. You, let's see, you want to sound prepared, but not robotic when it comes to memorizing that speech or that elevator pitch. Memorizing it word for word can make you sound a little bit stiff and robotic. Instead, I would definitely recommend know your key points and speak from a place of confidence and clarity when explaining about yourself, the growth, and the company as well. And too vague and not concise. Avoid generalities like I'm a hard worker or I'm passionate, or be specific. What have you done and what impact did it have? Keep it focused. Every sentence should add value and move your story forward in regards to that elevator pitch. So those are probably the most top five common elevator pitch mistakes I do see as a recruiter. So definitely want to make sure that was highlighted here for everyone here today. With that being said, I now want to dive into some methods that we can use to prepare for all interviews that first go into, sorry, that's going to first go into the STAR method. I know we talked about it earlier. This is going to be one of the methods that I definitely recommend when it comes to preparing yourself as much as possible once you get to that interview and answer questions overall. So if you have heard of the STAR method or haven't, the STAR method is actually a structured way. Sorry about that. A structured way to answer behavioral interview questions by walking the interviewer through a real life example. So it helps you stay focused, organized, and impactful. And it's spelled STAR, so STAR for situation, task, action, and result. So the first one we're going to talk about is situation. Start by giving context or context. set the scene and give the necessary details of your example. Where were you working? What was happening? Think of this as a setup, so to speak. Make it brief but clear. You're painting a picture for the interviewer. As an example for this, I'll use myself. If I was using the STAR method and I was in a situation, I would say, I was working as a recruiter during a high volume hiring season for a tech client. Bam, that immediately sets the scene, which is exactly what the situation is. From there, we're going to go into task. And that is, what was your responsibility? Explain your role in that situation. What were you expected to do? This helps the interviewer understand your level of ownership. So, as an example, if my situation was I was working as a recruiter during a high volume hiring season for a tech client, my task was to fill 15 technical roles within 30 days while maintaining quality standards. That was my scene. That's my responsibility. From there, action. This is describing exactly what steps you took to address it. What did you do? This is the heart of your story. Walk through the steps you took. Focus on what you did, not the team, not the company, but what you did specifically. So I'll use me as an example. I could say I streamlined the screening process, partnered with hiring managers for clarity, and leveraged LinkedIn outreach to expand the candidate pool. I set the scene, I had my responsibility. What did I do specifically? What did I do? And then result. Wrap it up with results. Use metrics if possible. Numbers make your impact tangible to individuals. So even if the result honestly wasn't perfect, I would share what you learned in that. So as an example, I would say I successfully filled all roles within 28 days, and 90% of hires passed their probation period. So that sets up everything. It sets up my scene, it sets up my responsibility, it sets up what I did and what the outcome was. So the STAR method, very important tool, highly recommend it. Um, and with that being said, I want to go into putting it into practice using the STAR method. So on this slide, excuse me, we're going to be talking about going into practice and putting it to use. So, first, research common interview questions. Every industry has its go to questions, whether it's a behavioral question, a technical question, a situational question. It's important to know what's coming. So, use online resources like AI tools, and we'll talk about some tools later on today during the webinar to help stimulate or simulate interviews. So you can even ask for feedback to improve your responses. Very important there. Practice your elevator pitch. Don't just write it, say the pitch out loud. Time yourself to make sure it's within that 1 or 2 minute sweet spot. Record yourself or practice with a friend. You'll catch things like filler words or pacing issues, and you wouldn't normally find that just saying it out loud. But when you actually have a partner practicing with, they can catch these things because you're just in the moment and just going through the interview. You're not thinking about feedback, so to speak. So definitely something that I would highly recommend. Excuse me. From there, have a notebook of work situations. So, some reminders of situations you've encountered throughout your work experience to jog your memory during the interview. But before the interview, jot down a few key experiences like projects, challenges, wins. That's a big thing. Having these reminders helps you quickly recall examples when answering different types of questions, especially behavioral questions. It's like having a cheat sheet, so to speak, for your star responses. And that's also a great question that's normally asked is, are notebooks allowed in interviews? Yes, absolutely, especially for virtual interviews or in-person interviews. Don't read from it like a book, so to speak, but use it to remember highlights or questions you might ask or record during the interview. So I would definitely recommend that 100%. But yeah, so that's putting that star method to practice overall. So with that segue, I would love to talk about what's actually going to happen after the interview. And this is normally where a lot of individuals or candidates might forget about because you've done all the preparation, you do the interview, and then you're now rapidly waiting for a response, but might not know what's a good follow up and how to maximize after completing that interview, especially within 24 hours. So there's a couple bullet points here. First one is going to be sending a thank you note. Sending that email 24 hours within 24 hours, it's a simple gesture, but it leaves a very lasting impression. And they'll remember if you don't send an email. So it's definitely important to send that out. Mention something specific from the interview in that email to personalize it and reinforce your interest. Again, that's trying to hook them back into it, make sure they can continue feedback and communication with that individual. From there, you really want to reflect on that interview. So take a few minutes to think about what went well during the interview and what you can improve upon. Consider what went well. This reflection helps you grow and prepares you even better for that next opportunity, because again, it's a learning environment. You're trying to learn and apply it. It's only going to be a positive outcome. From there, follow up. If you haven't heard back within the given time frame, send a polite follow up email. It's okay to send that email. Keep it professional though, and express continued interest, but don't be too pushy about it. But definitely want to do a follow up if it's available. And you can even do that follow up connection on LinkedIn. So if it feels appropriate, send a connection request with a short message thanking them again. It's a great way to stay on their radar and expand your professional network, especially within LinkedIn, because networking is such a big deal when it comes to looking for a new career path. So, want to be able to have that as a resource. From there, it's preparing for next steps. Be ready for potential follow up interviews or assessments. So, keep your momentum going. Don't wait to start preparing uh, for your next interview, right? You want to be able to immediately apply what you've learned and apply that immediately to the next interview. That way, you're not behind. So make sure to keep that in mind and then seek feedback. Even if you don't get feedback for the role, that's absolutely okay. Asking for feedback can still be incredibly valuable. It's important to note that not everyone will respond and give you feedback, but when they do, you can use that immediately to improve for future interviews. So you definitely want to keep that readily available at all times. Um, but again, it's important to note not everyone will, which is unfortunate. I think everyone should, but when you have that, apply that almost immediately to the next interview. Excuse me. This is also very important. This is probably my favorite one on the slide is celebrate your efforts. Interviewing is very hard and it takes time, energy, and it takes a lot of courage. Celebrating that you did that is very important. The fact that you showed up and you gave it your best, you need to celebrate that as a huge win. Every interview is a learning experience and a step forward. So that's something that a lot of individuals they always forget about. Whether you receive feedback, don't receive feedback, it's still a huge accomplishment. You interviewed for a particular opportunity, and you should celebrate that you showed up and gave it your 100% and best. So, highly recommend doing that. But yeah, so that's what it looks like. I would highly recommend doing for after interview. We mentioned it earlier, and I want to now take a deep dive into how to use some AI tools to help practice for interviews. So here, we're going to talk about a few different things you can use to practice for interviews. So, first is simulate real interview scenarios with AI. You can ask AI to role play as a hiring manager, as an example, even for a specific job title. So, let's say as a technical recruiter or like a marketing analyst, it'll ask you realistic questions and give feedback on your answers. It's kind of like having a practice partner 24/7. So, I would definitely recommend, and it's a solo thing, so you can use it on your own. I would definitely recommend having that as a practice partner. And you can use AI to improve even star responses. So even if you have a story in mind, but you're not quite sure how to structure it, give AI your rough draft. Like they can analyze that, they can look at it. It can help reshape it, especially using the star method. So it'll apply your situation, your task, your action, your result. So your response is more clear and impactful overall. Especially if you might be struggling with that star method response. Let's see. And then last on here is use AI to research the company and the role. So, um, an example of this is paste in a job description and ask AI to provide 3 questions to ask the interview based on the job post. Um, yeah, that's an absolutely fantastic example. So pasting that job description, ask AI to generate questions they can give you questions for during the interview. It can also help you identify key skills is what's important and tailor your elevator pitch to match that role specifically. And there's a nice key takeaway here on the right hand side of the slide. AI won't replace your preparation, but it can accelerate your improvement. So use it as a personal coach to rehearse, refine, and reframe your answers until you feel a little bit more confident, so to speak. Um, with that in mind, for AI tools, I would love to kind of explain more about Google Interview Warmup, which is a great AI tool I would recommend. Um, so Google Interview Warmup, it's all about leveraging advantages here. It is a free AI powered tool designed to help job seekers practice for interviews by providing a private environment to answer common interview questions and receive feedback. But it's tailored to specific career fields, especially like UX design, project management, IT support, and a lot more. And you'll see on the left hand side, this is what it looks like in terms of what you're trying to practice for. It gives you situational questions, just like the ones you would get in an actual real interview, and lets you respond either by typing or speaking. It allows you to use your microphone. You can then review your answers and get insights into your word choices and your structures. So it's a great way to build confidence, especially if you're prepping solo. So think of it as a low pressure way to rehearse and refine your responses before the real thing. And on the slide here, left hand side is a great example of what it looks like when you first go to Google Warmup. And then right hand side is like a situational question that I might provide based on the tailored job overall. Um, so, with that being said, the second part of this slide is really a reminder that Google Interview Warmup isn't just a tool. It's part of a broader set of resources you can explore to prepare before, during, and after the interview. It even helps you, excuse me, whew, it even helps you practice different types of questions, whether it's behavioral questions, technical questions, any type of background questions. So that way you're essentially ready for everything. Um, Another pro tip, you can, and I know we talked about it earlier here today, but you can check out the interview Google warmup um, as well as all the other resources we have under the content tab. So it should be webinar, then content tab, and then explore resources. So I definitely recommend to go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into that if curious about Google warmup. But yeah, great resource. Highly recommend it. Have been using it pretty regularly after it went live, and I use it quite often as a recruiter. So very impactful. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna go into the interview prep cheat sheet. So this is really good. This is basically your personal playbook that I want to provide to you. It gives you a quick, structured guidance on how to answer the most common interview questions with confidence. So it's broken up into 8 sections. It's pretty self-explanatory. It goes through tell me about yourself, so discussing your work journey, qualifying your experience, and then the second segment of that would be why did you leave your previous position? Just going through discussing your opportunities for room and growth, speak positively about your place of work. The third part would be what is your strength? So discussing your strengths as it relates to that particular role. Um, what is the area of opportunity? How do you handle a difficult situation at work using the STAR method? It's important because a lot of these help you stay focused and avoid rambling and tailor your responses to what interviewers actually want to hear. So instead of trying to wing it or memorize answers, this sheet helps you reflect on your experiences and respond with clarity and impact. So think of it as a tool to help you prepare smarter, not harder. So you walk into the interview ready to deliver your best overall. But it's also important to note again that this will be accessible the cheat sheet will be in the content section. But the last 3 parts of it are going to be in regards to what sets you apart from others. So share your strengths and relate on how you be benefit to that role. The second to last one is how do you manage your time? So describe how you stay organized, ensure you are prepared in situations. This is a big situation where using the STAR method to discuss a time you had to multitask. So go through that situation, that task, that action, the result. And then lastly, what questions do you have for them? Show that you've done your research on the company and the role, very important. This is a great time to ask about the company culture, what a day in the life of the position would look like, and etc. But yeah, this would be available, like I said, in the content section overall. And then from here, I believe we are transitioning into a Q&A panel, I believe. So I will go ahead and transition over here and open the floor.
Thank you so much, Daniel. You have done an incredible, incredible, incredible job. Let me stress to our viewing audience how special this is to be able to have someone of Daniel's caliber to be able to ask questions to. And so I want for you all to please, please, please put down in the chat your burning questions. We have the opportunity to do about 20 or so minutes worth of questions today. And so please make sure that any questions that have come up over the course of today's content, that you feel free to put it in the chat, because we absolutely want to make sure that you are leaving here with all the tips and tricks and tools and having those questions answered. All right. Now, we did have some of our high achieving individuals that have already put some questions in the chat. And so we'll start with the first one, Daniel.
Yeah.
Question number one: any advice on best note taking techniques? Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that didn't come out right. Any advice on best note taking techniques during interviews virtual? I like to retain as many details as I can, but a physical notebook might make me look distracted, and typing on the keyboard in an app might be noisy, and again, might make me look distracted if the notes are on a different screen. So, what are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for that. So I guess the first thing I would ask is whether or not it's a virtual or in office interview. And there's a few different ways you can use that to your advantages. Let's say it's a virtual interview as an example. You can use a split screen setup. So keep the video call on one side, and then your note application, whether it's OneNote, Notion, Word, use that on the other side. So this reduces the time you need to like switch between windows, and it doesn't seem as extracting or distracting because you can keep your eyes on the individual you're talking to. Silent keyboard or external devices are a big thing too. If you're again on an external device, or sorry, a virtual interview. So you can use like a silent keyboard, you can use a stylus, and you can even use like structured note templates. So use reusable templates. That's what I use in regards to like candidates, maybe like strengths, concerns, follow up questions, things of that nature. And then the big thing I would recommend is to tips to stay engaged while note taking. So even if it is an in-person interview, um, go ahead and just use it as a way to stay engaged, like talking to them directly and still write the notes down. Avoid looking down too often, nod and maintain eye contact periodically to show that you're actively listening to that overall. So hopefully that was able to provide some solid insight into the question. Great question though.
Absolutely. And yes, you did. I just want you to know, yes, you absolutely did. Next question is: any thoughts on adding the interviewer on LinkedIn ahead of time? I'll obviously check their profile and they will see that depending on my privacy settings. So, should you just add them while you're there or only after?
Gotcha. Great question. And just to repeat it, it was should you add the interviewer on LinkedIn before the interview? Was that correct?
Absolutely. I can repeat the question if you need for me to.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Brittany.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I would give short answer. Honestly, I would say wait until after the interview. So it's totally fine to view the profile beforehand. That way, you know it's a real person. That's a common thing that happens. But professionals expect that, and it shows preparation. But I would still wait until after the interview because before the interview, it might send a request, might feel a little like overly familiar. It might be a little bit too jumpy, especially if you haven't interacted yet. But after the interview, it's more natural to connect once you've had that conversation with that individual. So you can personalize the request a little with a quick thank you, with that nice follow up after the interview. So, short answer, I would say wait till after the interview.
That's really insightful. Let me just say, I'm taking notes of that. Okay. Okay. Next question is: so, how do you get the email of the interviewer? With most interviews, in my experience, being online now, their email is not readily available.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't think I've actually been asked that before. So, my recommendation would be to check the calendar invite. So, if it's a virtual interview, which is I'm assuming it is, often the organizer's email is visible on that link. So, if they use Microsoft Teams, which I know I do, then it's going to be available on that, and you can reply back to that. You can also ask the recruiter or coordinator if you're not the one scheduling, reach out to whoever set up the interview and then try to get that information beforehand. LinkedIn is a workaround for it. Like some professionals do list their email in their LinkedIn contact profile. So that is an option, but usually a lot of companies have a company email format. So even if you know the company's email structure, so usually it's like first name, last name at and then company.com. Now it's not always the case, but it's a pretty good guarantee, and you can often guess it accurately. But also, it's important I should note to be respectful of privacy and avoid getting it unless you're confident that it's appropriate given the situation. If that makes any sense. But great question.
Very good question and very good response to that. I love that caveat at the end. Even though we may have the best of intentions, we absolutely want to make sure that we're being cognizant of how it may be perceived. So excellent, excellent caveat, Daniel. Next question. Should we always assume that the hiring manager has a copy of the candidate's resume in front of them during the interview?
Ooh, okay. You said it was assume that the hiring manager has the candidate's resume in front of them. Is that correct?
That is correct, Daniel. That is correct.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, I would say generally yes, but I wouldn't count on it. So here's why. Many hiring managers do review resumes beforehand, but some may skim or rely on notes from recruiters. So, like in fast-paced environments, they might jump to the interview without prep. So best practice, I would say, is like start with a quick summary, and then I would have the resume handy beforehand. So it, I would say yes, generally yes, but don't count on it. Most of the time, though, they are still going to have it, but there's some situations where they might not. So again, I would say absolutely assume, like generally, yes, you're going to assume that the hiring manager does have the candidate's resume in front of them. Hopefully, the recruiter has already gone through and reviewed it and also highlighted any key questions they're going to ask during that particular interview. But yes, many hiring managers do have it beforehand, but some may rely on notes already from their recruiters.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And let me just also again reiterate how important it is to please get your questions answered. Go ahead and put it in the chat. This is your opportunity now. All right. So, next question. I recently had an interview where they brought up several topics in my field and wanted me to rate myself 1 through 5, with 5 being the best. What's the best way to answer that without sounding overconfident, but also being honest about your experience? That's a
Ooh,
great question. I want
ooh.
to hear your take on that, Daniel.
Yeah, it's a great question. Can you say it one more time? Sorry, I was trying to listen to it.
Absolutely. And I will say it a little slower just in case it's me. I recently had an interview where they brought up several topics in my field and wanted me to rate myself 1 through 5, with 5 being the best. What's the best way to answer that without sounding overconfident, but also being honest about your experience? And like I was saying, I think that's an excellent question. The way that I was raised, we were raised to be humble. And so I would love to hear how to balance that humility with being confident and not appearing to be arrogant or overly confident.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Great question. That's also another question I don't think I've been asked before. But yeah, so big thing I would recommend is, like you said, be honest, right? Um, Obviously, explain in a very professional manner exactly why your skill sets are relevant, where you've acquired them. The STAR method is also very important in explaining why your skill set is important because you can show metrics for exactly why it was relevant, and it kind of shows off exactly what your skills are without over being overconfident or boisterous about the role. But also, the big thing is I would show enthusiasm. Like I said, energy matters. That's a big thing. So being able to rate, to be honestly, like why you think it's a fit for an opportunity, why your metrics and relevant skills are there, and then have that energy to show that, hey, I'm not trying to be over boisterous or over confident. Just really want to emphasize why my skills are relevant to the role for that. That's a really good question too. I want to make sure I can make a document for that of like how to provide some more insights into that. But that's what I would recommend, honestly. Just like you said, be honest, show some enthusiasm, use that method, explain why, and use metrics to explain why it's a point for it. Um, but yeah, I wish I had more of an in-depth answer to that, but I will definitely get back with a better answer for that.
Absolutely. I loved your response to that. And I have a question. I'm going to skip around a little bit because I see one that I think I want to make sure that we get to. Um,
Yeah.
the question is, my native language is Spanish, and I have
Mhm.
an intermediate level of, I guess, communication in English. How can I handle this weakness in an interview?
Oh, gotcha. Fantastic question. So you can ask that during before the interview as well. So you can actually talk to the whether it's the recruiter or hiring manager that you have a preference or a native language that you'd like to have for during the interview, and they can make accommodations for that potentially for that particular role. So they might have a native Spanish speaking recruiter or individual that can help facilitate that call with you as well if you prefer to speak in Spanish. That's something that I would definitely ask, like I said, whoever the recruiter is or account manager. That way they can accommodate for that as fast as possible.
And Daniel, I don't know if you are feel comfortable with me adding something to that. Is it okay for you
Yes.
to add to
Oh,
that?
absolutely. Please do.
One of the things that we talk about in terms of inclusivity is being upfront and honest. So if there is a situation where maybe there isn't the ability to have someone that may be able to speak your native language, I would still, starting the interview, say and you wanted to do it in terms of your strength. I am bilingual, and my first language is Spanish. My secondary language is English, and so I just wanted to make you aware. I may take a few moments to be able to translate what you're saying, and so say that is absolutely going to be a benefit because one, hello, superpower, you know more than one language, and two, you have the ability to communicate what your needs are so that a person isn't assuming something about you based on their perception as opposed to you being honest and truthful up front. Okay, so I hope that even though I am not the subject area expert, Daniel is. I hope that my little caveat was helpful. All right,
No, it was
so
fantastic. Thank you.
no problem, Daniel. Next question. How can an interviewer stand out while answering the question, tell me about yourself?
Oh, sorry. Say that one more time. Sorry about that.
How can an interviewer stand out while answering the tell me about yourself question?
Ooh. How can an interviewee stand out while answering the tell me about yourself question? Oh, it's a great question. So, there's a few different things that you can. I'm trying to actually see if we can. I might be able to pull it back up here from our previous slides. But yeah, a big thing I would recommend in regards to telling about yourself would be just explain who you are. God, I had such a good note for this actually a second ago. I wish I had it pulled up. But yeah, just explain who you are, the impact you had, what you're looking for. And for explaining, I guess for the question, is this in regards to the elevator pitch or is it in regards to like a star method? I guess that's a good follow-up question.
That what you know what? Why don't you answer it both ways?
Yeah, of course. So when it comes to an elevator pitch, when you're kind of explaining about who you are, I'll give myself as an example of how I would explain who I am. So I would say, "Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a technical recruiter based in Virginia. I have a strong focusing on connecting with candidates to for meaningful career opportunities. I specialize in sourcing and screening talent for technical and entry level roles, and particularly through platforms like Salesforce and Career Circle. And over the past year, I've worked with hiring managers to streamline our recruitment process, whether that's improving candidate engagement, fill high volume requisitions effectively. My primary goal is to involve helping people find the right fit, not just for the job, but for their long term growth. So that's kind of a small but quick way to kind of explain who I am, if that makes any sense, especially in regards to like an elevator pitch.
Absolutely. I love that. The next question is, what are some common pitfalls that could unknowingly tank an interview?
Ooh, great question. So, biggest pitfalls would be not showing up in time. That's definitely something that matters. Make sure you arrive those 10 to 15 minutes early. That's very important. That's why when you arrive those 10 to 15 minutes early, you can see if there's any issues with it beforehand. Another pitfall I would see would be not following up, like we mentioned earlier. You definitely want to make sure you follow up as much as possible. Um, Another thing would be in regards to your elevator pitch. Some pitfalls would be, how do I make that elevator pitch stand out? You want to make it personal and relevant and confident. So highlight those strengths. That's a big thing. Tie them to that role or company you're targeting. What's another pitfall? Usually it's, how do I handle nerves? That's probably the biggest question I get is, how do you handle those nerves during the interview? I would say quick answer would be in regards to preparation. Like that is key. Practice with mock interviews, use those breathing techniques, remind yourself that the interview is a conversation. It's not a test. So definitely preparation. I would say that's probably the most common pitfalls I would see in regards to interviews.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I see someone has an interview coming up on Monday. They're saying that it is a phone interview and they want specifics on how to prepare a star story. I researched the company. My only worry is my tone and how I will actually sound. So that is the question.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. So, um, when it comes to setting up that star method, it's a big thing, right? So again, you want to set the scene. This is the four things I would write down. Set the scene. What was your responsibility? What did you do? And then what was the outcome, right? Um, Knowing each part of that star method helps tremendously. And there's also a document we have as well in regards to the star method overall that I can also provide. But that's a big thing. Give your context. What were you doing? Explain your role in that situation. What were you expected to do? Um, is this, what is the heart of your story? That's so important. Like what steps, like walk through the steps you took, what you did in that position, not just the team like or the company per se, but you specifically, and then wrap that up with the results. Like, what was the outcome for that? So even if the results like weren't perfect, that's completely okay, right? Share what you learned from that overall. So that would be my best recommendation for it. Um, was there a second part to the question? I want to make sure I didn't miss the second part.
There was no second part. They were just concerned about their tone and how they may sound, and so I think that if you are coming into it well prepared for it, then that's going to impact your tone in a positive way, and that's going to impact how your confidence in yourself. And so I think that what you've just said nails it on the head with that particular question. All right. Next question is: should I address several years career break in my resume and elevator pitch?
Ooh, absolutely. Um, sorry, I'm trying to bounce back and forth too. Um, can you say it one more time?
Should I address several years career break in my resume and elevator pitch?
Oh, gotcha. Great, great question. Great question. So that's a very common type of question that's usually asked is how do I provide that? First, just like Brittany said, be honest and confidence. Gaps happen a lot for all kinds of reasons, whether it's caregiving, health, education, travel, or even just taking time to reassess your career path. Very common. So don't feel bad. What matters most is how you frame that experience, right? That gap, so to speak. Best ways I would recommend would be to acknowledge the gap, right, without over explaining it. A simple statement like I took I took time off to take care of a family member, or I used that period to upskill and refocus my career path. That's going to be more than enough. Focus on what you did during that gap, if that makes any sense. Did you take courses? Did you volunteer? Did you do freelance or work on personal projects? These kind of show that initiative and growth, and then connect it to your readiness now. So reinforce that you're prepared, you're motivated, and ready to re enter that workforce. I'm trying to think of an example. So let's say, as an example, I took a year off to care for a family member, but during that time, I completed a certificate in project management and stayed current with industry trends. Now I'm fully ready to bring that knowledge and that energy to the role. So those big things: acknowledge the gap, focus on what you're doing during the gap, and then connect it to your readiness now.
I love that. I love that. Uh-oh. Okay. Um, I had a question.
Yeah.
The next question is: if I feel my nerves rising during an interview, what's a professional way to pause and collect myself without disrupting the flow of the conversation? Oh, this is a good one. I have an answer to this. Daniel, you go
Yeah.
first.
No, absolutely. I was going to say, you by all means, I'll be more than happy to rely on you for this.
Well, what I tend to do, and it kind of goes back to that question about taking notes. And so I can sometimes get anxious, and part of my anxiousness is because I feel like I need to respond right away. I want to appear competent. I want to appear professional. And so what I've found that I do is I tell them that I'm taking notes. So if you just give me one moment, I want to make sure that I got the question down, and that gives me an opportunity to write. It helps me to process my feelings in that moment. It helps to ground me. And you, even if you're not writing notes, I don't want to say to tell a white lie, but it's an opportunity for you, even if you're not writing notes, to have a moment to take a breath and then be able to respond to what you need to be able to process what's being asked. so that you're not relying on emotion and you're not feeling the need to have a specific rhythm. That you take the time that you need in order to be able to respond when you feel most comfortable.
That's perfectly well said. You said it better than I could have, Brittany. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you, Daniel. I am looking, and we have time for one more question. And so the last question is, what about the questions that are meant to throw you off? Example, what type of animal would you be and why? How do you handle these on the fly?
Oh, that's hilarious. Actually, I don't think I've been asked that before during an interview. So during the interview, being asked like a wild question like that, be completely honest. Make sure it's appropriate as well. But yeah, no, I think it's meant to just throw you off in the middle of the moment. So you can take your time to answer questions, right? Don't just immediately try to spit out an answer as fast as possible. Take time. Go, wow, I've never heard that question before. Maybe I would say birds are one of my favorite animals. I love golden eagles. I'd say maybe that's my favorite animal to use for that. They're trying to test your responsiveness, and if you're able to take a second, think upon the question, and then act accordingly. So
Mhm.
just like Brittany said as well, you can take a breath, really process the question, and then come with an appropriate answer as much as possible.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that those questions are meant um, to see how you respond under pressure and to see your level of creativity. And so, in those moments, like Daniel was saying, I wouldn't overthink it. I would say your reasons and why, and then I would also tie it into what your strengths are in terms of the job. And so, if I was a bird, I'm a bird because I'm observant of things, and because I'm observant, it makes me detail oriented. Like
Yeah.
know, come on, okay? Toot your own horn. So, with that being said, with 3 minutes left, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone. I want to reiterate to please stay tuned until the end. We have some important information. We'll be sending you a post event email, which will include a recording as well as all of the resources we spoke about today. You can access our event survey by using the QR code earlier in the presentation or by locating it in the email. We'll be doing a raffle with all respondents, and one of you will win a Career Circle tote bag. Make sure to like and follow us on our socials to stay up to date on all platform updates. Once again, we thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you all leave here today feeling empowered and ready to ace your interview with confidence. We've had so much fun today. Please join us for our upcoming events. Our next virtual career fair will be October the 2nd from 12 until 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as our next webinar is on October the 23rd from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can view all events and register on careercircle.com/events. Thank you and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Be safe.